Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison, and this is maintaining frame number 111. Just so happens to be, I don't know if any of you guys are into numerology, but that might have a meaning. I have no idea. But
I could look it up.
111, yeah, 111. Trump nearly murdered, men to blame. And
Yeah,
we're going
well,
to be talking about recent events, of which are of no consequence. I can't really think of anything specific, but
maybe something impactful that happened recently, but
yeah, maybe.
maybe just a little bit,
Probably not, though.
not
Probably
too
not.
much. No, just slightly. But it seems to be on everybody's lips, so let's talk about it. And we're already starting to trot out the usual suspects. So we have calls to ban guns. We have calls to, well, the questions about the potential diversity and equity employment choices of Trump's security team. And we also are starting to see the narrative of blaming incel violence starting to grope out of the depths of the human subconscious as it does in these times. And as usual, like incel violence is simply men's violence. Let's be honest. So once again, we're moving towards blaming men instead of blaming a highly fraught political landscape that's just getting less and less civil and more violent. The rhetoric that's going around by the day.
Yep.
So, well, I think it's worth talking about because two people are dead now, and in this assassination attempt, and that's often overlooked when people make these kinds of political statements. Often there are bystanders that get caught in the crossfire. I mean, if we want, we could also go over a very poorly timed triumphalist defense of yeah, okay, it's basically another House of Dragons thing, but it has this very unfortunate theme that just came out a couple, like maybe a week before this happened, in which one of the main female characters, who, according to this author, is channeling Hillary Clinton, basically opens fire in a crowd and hits a whole bunch of civilians, and now making a political statement about who is taking charge of the presidency. I mean, the throne of Westeros. But anyway, I mean, I think it's interesting all the connections, right? And we're all about connections here. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at where the narrative is evolving, and then have
All
some
right.
commentary.
So you sent me this Twitter thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a video. So we're going to look at it. I think if I hit play, it should automatically switch, even though it's not a YouTube video. So we're going to do that now. This is a tweet from uh, Mario Nawfal,
Mm-hmm.
classmate of Trump alleged shooter. He was a loner. This is a
Mm.
common kind of
Yep. This is common
yeah.
statement.
Yeah, exactly. So let's give this a listen.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've spoken about this before on Honey Badger Radio about social exclusion, and not just extreme forms of social exclusion like this kind of bullying, but also just the whole idea that men don't have a legitimate positive identity, pushing them towards extremism and extremist acts, and that the encouragement of that is going to encourage extremism. I know you have your own opinions about that, but I
What do you mean?
well, I mean, like, about what's going on here, but, like, we have talked about this, like, I mean, you spoke about in the past, what I was bringing up was you spoke in the past about how a lot of these guys who are in extremist groups, including, I
Oh
don't want
yeah.
to say far right because it's almost a meaningless term, but like white supremacists, now real ones, not just the Proud Boys who aren't. But you talked about how men who get sucked into that will often just be part of multiple types of almost self-contradicting ideologies, or bounce from ideology to ideology, because they don't, what they're looking for is an identity, right? And any identity.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and they can't, like in our society we don't allow men to take a positive identity from like even any kind of productive participation in society, because it's all making patriarchy apparently. And if men earn from it, then they are oppressing women through the paid wage gap. But so this whole construction, like Michael McLuhan said, or Michael, so Mitchell, Michael, when people don't have an identity, they resort to violence. And when society doesn't provide people or men a positive sense of participation in it, then that radicalization is a symptom. Like there's a lot more symptoms. Suicide is probably the biggest symptom. Living lives of quiet desperation, passive suicide, like we see with George Floyd, stuff like that. This is
Mm-hmm.
all symptoms of a society that's turned its back on its men, in my opinion. And I mean, and I know that there's like a serious political context to this that I'm not touching on, because I just want to bring out the way that we approach raising men and boys in our society lends itself to this kind of radicalization. And it also occurs in other cultures too. Islam has its own marginalization of young men from like from family and productive work. With polygamy, somebody has to lose out, right? So they have these narratives in which through violence, you can earn. Extremist Islam has these narratives that through violence you can earn a place in heaven. And that's sort of what's, I think, going on here. I mean, you have these narratives that through violence you can earn a place. It's even what one of the most stressful things about watching the Joker movie was how this guy who was bullied and ostracized and isolated and was a complete loner, and he got nothing, like no recognition from anyone until he was violent. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
that channeled him towards that particular identity. It was almost like he was fighting it every step of the way. But the only way he was recognized, even as a good person, was through engaging in this kind of violence. And it was, interestingly enough, it was anarchistic kind of pushing, or so-called punching up against the rich class kind of violence, right? And it's just, and then that's sort of an example of this kind
I
of. Sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I know it's okay. I just wanted to get in here really quick because apparently the audio wasn't playing for the people watching when I played that video. So I
Mm-hmm.
gotta find the correct source and make sure the video is playing for it. So hold on a
Mm-hmm.
second while I do that, and I apologize for the confusion. So let me just play this clip again for you guys.
He was
Mm-hmm.
bullied almost every day.
There we go.
In what way? Can you explain?
I mean, he would sit alone at lunch. I mean, he was just an outcast, and you know how kids are nowadays, so they're gonna see someone like that, and they're gonna target him because they think it's funny or whatever, so it's the best way I can describe it. And it's honestly kind of sad. Like, I don't want to say this is what provoked it, but you never know.
Yeah. You said he was a loner?
Yeah. I want to say he was a loner more because he was quiet, but like he was just bullied. Like he was bullied so much, so much.
Mm.
And this was high school.
Yeah.
What did they, do you remember at all what they said to him or called him?
No. He was just made fun of, I guess, for the way he dressed or his appearance.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys should be able to hear that now.
Yeah.
And
Just give us a confirmation that you
we have the
heard.
context. No, I'm watching the audio. It should be. It's just that it's a mess because, just real quick, OBS, when I'm doing the live shows through Video Ninja, I have to put all of the separate audios, yours, mine, whoever else, and whatever video we're responding to, on their own separate audio channels. But when we do content through where we're on Discord or something, which I do for the patron shows, I have to completely rearrange it so that only the audio is all coming out of one place, because in Discord you can't break it up. So this means that when I do a show, another live show, I have to like remember to flip everything again. It's a pain in the ass, to be honest, but that's what happened. So it should be good now.
That's good.
All right. So to reply to what you were saying, yeah, I mean, let me know if my sound is too loud. I see that it seems to be peaking in the in one place, but it's not in here, so maybe it's not really that bad. Anyway, Nama Cates, who had a series of podcasts called the Incel Project, she spoke to several guys at work, you know, for various sort of like organizations that track terrorist activity, and what they revealed is that a lot of men looking for direction, looking for meaning, they join extremist groups, just like you said, and sometimes those they'll go from being white supremacists to Antifa to Islamist terrorists, or, you know, part of an Islamist group, and it has nothing to do with the ideology. They don't believe in it most of the time. They just want to belong to something, and a lot of times these groups give them that. You know, other people like James Lindsay has written about. James Lindsay has a series called the New Discourses podcast, and I remember one episode that I thought was particularly interesting where he talked about how Maoist communists had 3 different circles, and there was like the outer school, the inner school, and the inner circle. And the outer school is kind of where these guys are at. The outer school is just people, they don't know a lot about what the philosophy is. They don't know much about the political stuff. They just want to feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. And so they join these groups. This is where you get your, you know, we were talking a little bit on one of the news shows, I think it was a while back, about these protests going on Colombia regarding Israel-Palestine, right? And I was trying to get across that the people who are engaging in those protests, most of them do not actually know what is going on with Israel-Palestine. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm saying they are not operating under an educated position. They are just joining the side that makes them feel like they're part of a larger whole. Now, they may be on the right side, because some people have accused me of, like, you know, caping for Israel. I know what that government is doing. I know that there's shady shit going on there. My point is, the Columbia students don't. They're doing it. It's like getting a monkey to answer a mathematical question. If it puts the right answer down, that doesn't mean it knows what it's doing. So this is the same thing. It's like, I want to feel like I belong, so I join Antifa, so I join Black Lives Matter, so I join the pro-Palestine thing, so I go to these pride marches, whatever. And that's what these kids are doing. So if this is true, I don't know, because there's a lot of fog around the assailant, and conveniently or inconveniently, he was killed immediately after he fired his shots. Yeah, this might be true, and it wouldn't be surprising. Of course, you know, if you want to have ripe access to people who can act as agents on your behalf, if you are, you know, recruiting for your extremist groups, it's not hard to find men that don't have a purpose because of what we have left them with. And they don't even really have to be incels per se. You know, I know that incels are like one of the ways, but it could just be guys like this guy. Maybe he's just somebody who gets bullied a lot. Maybe he's just somebody who sees the dating market as trash. Maybe he's somebody who's having a hard time finding a job in this economy, you know? And it's just men living in quiet desperation. And there's someone that says, hey, you know, you want to have meaning, you want to leave your mark on the world, you know, join us. And BX has talked about this too. I've had her on the show a couple of times, and she talks about how there are, you know, groomers, and I'm just not just sexual groomers, but people, agents that are looking for men, mostly men, because they're going to be the most useful to them, to use in their cause, to get them to commit acts of terror, to get them to harm others, to, you know, commit arson, whatever. And a lot of them are satanic, and I say that not as a religious person, but like rather like they put it in the, like it's what they believe. Like they are saying we are a satanic organization. You know, I'm just telling you what they are based on their description. So I'm not saying anything about this particular incident. I'm just looking at the broader pattern. I'm saying, you know, there's lots of fertile ground to do this, and lots of people have talked about it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and while you were speaking about it, I was thinking about Islam as sort of a cultural tradition. And no offense, and I'm not. Actually, I am sort of singling them out because of a lot of the social situation that they tend to deal with, and it's not necessarily because they themselves, like the religion itself, is necessarily like this, but this is what happens when you have a place with not a lot of agricultural resources, let's say, is that you end up with these kind of centralization, or trying to centralize resources, harem kind of model. And as a result of that, there's a significant number of men who have no real likelihood of ever having a wife and family, and ever really participating productively in the social system. So you have this kind of ocean of these men who don't have prospects. And so just a field that's rife for radicalization. And it doesn't even really have as much to do with ideology. It's just the circumstance. And now we're seeing this, like we're replicating it again in the West. We're replicating this situation where we have what they're terming soft polygyny, soft harems, and most men don't really have a hope of prospects, and they're also basically, but at, the thing is that there's no framework, and then in conjunction with that, we're also having these ideological attacks on men's identities just as they are, right? We're not even acknowledging the fact that men provide all kinds of things as a result of who they are, as a result of being men. Being men means that they tolerate discomfort more than women. They tolerate risk more than women. A lot of the jobs that men do are incredibly risky and stressful, and that includes being a politician. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we see right here, this is, I mean, honestly, because Trump is a man, I'm seeing a lot of people framing this act as almost like legitimate political discourse. Would you do that? I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't even somebody going out and at a Hillary rally and saying cunt would be considered worse than this. Think about it.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of discourse we're in terms of the recognition of relative harms for men versus women. And, and women don't want to take part in something like this because it's dangerous. Politics is dangerous, and that's, even being CEO is dangerous. And it's not just dangerous physically. It's dangerous in terms of risk taking. It's dangerous in terms of social reputation. It's dangerous in terms of the potential downfalls if you make the incorrect decision. That's why women self-select out of it. And we have men doing these roles. This is the same reason, why men are drawn to politics, to being a CEO, is the same reason why they're drawn to climbing up cell towers, or even
Yeah.
working in sewers, because they have a higher tolerance of risk. They have a higher tolerance of discomfort and stress, and a higher tolerance of disgusting work. Like, leadership can be some pretty disgusting work sometimes, So, and we don't recognize that. Instead of saying, hey, that's a wonderful quality of masculinity and of men, and we need that, and we value it, and thank God we have it, we say that it is oppression of women. We literally take something we rely on. And honestly, women won't do these jobs. They don't do them now. That when people ask them, they say, well, would you be a plumber? Would you work in a sewer for 100,000 a year? And they say no. And they say no because it's not socially prestigious. It's risky, dangerous, uncomfortable work. And 100,000, they wouldn't even do it. Like, there's nothing you can do to incentivize women to take the jobs that men do, because they're just not inclined towards them, right? And
Yeah.
we don't recognize that it's masculinity that's keeping this going. keeping this engine turning over day by day by day by day. Instead, we say that that is oppression of women. Women are excluded from these jobs by men, not by their own choice, but by men oppressing women. And somehow that oppression is universal, but not necessarily a trait of masculinity. It's just men everywhere do it, and throughout all of time. It's the most consistent trait that the dominant narrative in our society will recognize about men, is that they oppress women. And they oppress women by doing the jobs that they're inclined to do. So you see what I'm saying? They take something that is the wonderful part of masculinity, and they turn
Yeah.
it into oppression, something horrible, something terrible, the worst thing you can do. And then doing that, they strip men's identities. They give men a sense that they have no inherent worth or nothing to give the world. And then that radicalizes. And in conjunction with low prospects, low upward mobility, that radicalizes certain men, and not all men, because this is minimal. Like this, the amount of men who will ever take any kind of violence out on anyone else is like 1/20th the men who will put it on themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like one of the, like I brought up the Joker movie, one of the horrible parts of that is it really showed the kind of creeping destruction of this expectation of, well, as a vulnerable man, you are irrelevant, you are invisible. But as soon as you pick up a baseball bat and start getting aggressive, then people will either pay attention to you or value you in some way. They'll use you as a tool of their ideology. They'll see you, they'll respect you, and they'll see you as valuable because you've become a soldier or a warrior in defense or perpetuation of whatever thing that they think is the world should be. See what I'm saying? And the Joker movie was like the psyche breaking down under that pressure. And at every step of the way, he was fighting it because that's not what he wanted to be.
Yeah.
He wanted to be healthy. He wanted to be valued. He wanted to have a relationship. He didn't want to be a cipher for evil or a cipher for violence. And yet the pressure was so great, and it's like he had
Mm-hmm.
no hope. And goddamn, I have only watched that movie once.
Yeah, me too. It's
So
some movies, even if they're good ones, you can only watch them once.
yeah, it's like I don't know.
Yeah.
I need to get a prescription for Prozac before I watch that movie again.
Yeah.
But anyway,
So
I think that
go
there
ahead.
is some. I think there's some. If you step way back, there's some. Okay, I'm nuance, not nuance, but like there's context to all of this, and the more you strip men of an identity, and again, most men will just be violent internally, like they'll do suicide, they'll do passive destruction, right? You'll have the people who men who commit suicide, and then you'll have the men who commit like a passive suicide, like George Floyd, which nobody cared about prior to him becoming an ideological talking point. But then you'll have the few men who become violent. And as those men gain something in terms of a positive identity, we start to normalize that kind of ideological violence and we get more of it. And I think maybe what we're seeing in the Middle East is sort of the end result of that kind of normalizing young men taking an identity from becoming the tools of ideology. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? And
Yeah.
that's not that we don't want to go down that path. But
Mhm.
but we should probably it is a terrible thing to see, because I think that the West, we should do better because we are better.
We should do better. Yes. So is this like okay? This is a video. I don't
Mhm.
think this is the. Is this like the official narrative now? Like, is this what we're dealing with? Some people are saying that on Twitter you couldn't hear. Let me see. I don't know why you couldn't hear it because I did have it. Hold on a second. I'm just checking. No,
We got.
it should have been playing.
We should
I
do like a
I
pan
fixed it.
out from Brian so we can see like his air control, like NASA like panel of buttons and things he has to keep control over.
Yeah, you should. It's a lot. I'm like looking. I have
Like in the
three.
cockpit.
Legit, I
Cockpit of
have
a-
three. I have three screens. I'm looking at three screens.
You've
So
got- it's like a fighter jet cockpit. Actually, probably even worse, like more like a airline cockpit. Have you ever been in one of those?
no.
It's
So
like a Christmas
Coron
tree.
says there was no sound on the Twitter video. I think you have to click in the video to watch it on Twitter. It's a little bit trickier. That's not me.
Yeah, it's just Twitter.
That's not me. Iggy Thunders gave us $2 and said Trump post rally they didn't send their best. Thank you, Iggy Thunders. No, well, anyway, going back to this, I wonder, is this the official narrative? So, like, a lot of people are trying to, because the thing is, when these things happen, you get like, people are trying to figure out like, who is this person? Who is the shooter? What was their motive? Is there a manifesto, etc. And there's always a lot of speculation and some of the conspiracy theories I saw. I don't even like to say it that way because that term is really overused. But some of the cope on Twitter I saw coming from the people with TDS about this is just
Okay,
like
can I just
mind-boggling. Like,
interrupt you briefly?
Yeah.
The screen is stuck on him.
oh yeah, right. I got to turn the macros back.
Yeah,
on.
turn a macro. Maybe we should have like one where it's just a little like icon of what we're responding to or something. Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's good.
All right.
Good.
Well, yeah. So I just wanted to show it for a second while I got, well, just because I know that we're responding to this specific video. So,
Yeah.
so anyway, there is some, so there's a lot floating around. There is some evidence that this kid, Thomas Matthew Crooks, I'm not sure if this is like 100% official that he is the guy. It sounds like it. I don't know, because he's dead now, so it's kind of like dead men tell no tales kind of thing. Like we may never learn why, but apparently he was featured in an ad for BlackRock in 2023. So what does that mean? So and some people are saying, you mentioned to me that he's a registered Republican. Again, that's kind of meaningless too, because
Also donated to Vote Blue, I believe.
yeah, and so it's kind of like the people are grasping at something, and I think that it's obvious that there was an attempt on Trump's life by this guy. That's basically all it is. Like it doesn't matter what his politics are. We know that Trump wasn't popular with Republicans either, so that's irrelevant. We know that the media has created a tremendous hate campaign. It's like wartime propaganda against him, inevitably, and it was all, I think, it's like all you gotta do is say something bad about a group of people for enough times and do it like everywhere to the point where somebody is like, I think I'm gonna do something about this. So that could be the case. It could be any number of things. Some people are saying MK Ultra. That's also, I mean, that's not a lie. Like, that existed. It exists. So it could be that too, but that again is getting into the weeds of this. I think that ultimately what we have to understand is that what happened yesterday, while I'm not surprised at all, I knew somebody was gonna try something at some point, and I'm really happy that it didn't kill him, although it still put two people in the hospital and killed someone else. I think one person or two people died, and a couple were in the hospital with critical condition. Yeah, that there's no, I don't know, where's the middle ground there? Like, there's no nuance. That was wrong. Yeah. That was evil. That's it. And the media and people who have promoted, this rhetoric, not just around Trump, but around conservatives in general, Christians, men, all of it. It all, like I said this in 2015. I said this in 2015 when he was running. I said, they're not going after him. They're going after what he symbolizes. He is an avatar for everything they hate. He is a man. He is rich. He is straight. He is, more or less like Christian, I suppose. I don't know. I don't measure people's worth based on that, but these are all the things that he hates. He is all of the black categories in one person, and they had to destroy it like an effigy because it symbolizes everything else, right? It's like, why is it when I remember back when Trump was running, he was talking with someone, I can't remember who, but there was some journalist, and they were trying to get him to like, essentially pander to women and women's needs politically. And he said, yeah, you know, he kind of gave them a bone and was like, sure, but men also have a lot of problems. And just him saying that, because they have to take the opposite position of everything he says, you know, Trevor Noah and all these people came out and they were like, men, they have it so bad, but they were being really sarcastic because essentially he symbolizes what they hate, which is men in part, right? So that's why I think that this is what you're going to get. Like, you know, Allison, you've talked about the wartime propaganda against men. I mean, it's going to hurt. It's going to eventually, someone is going to act on that. And that's what you get. Like, and this is what the bear meme is about. It is also comparing men to animals or something more dangerous than animals. It is also
Criminals.
wartime propaganda, right?
It's
So-
basically saying that men are defined by criminal violence. And
Yeah.
the funny thing about all of this is if you actually look at Trump on a policy level, he's maybe a little left of Bill Clinton from a pure policy level. And this is what always baffled me about the hatred towards him. From a pure policy level, he's not actually that right. You know, I mean,
No, but that doesn't matter though.
he's
That's what I'm saying. It's
anti-establishment more than anything.
right.
and,
That's
and-
probably the more important thing, in fact.
And you know, and then before everybody's like, "Oh my God, Allison, you got what is it? You're a Trumpster or something." As I've said multiple times on this channel, I have criticisms of Trump. You know, I don't uncritically believe in him. I don't think that he's necessarily going to solve all the problems that we have. I think that honestly, if I could be completely honest, at best, I think he's going to slow the car down, maybe put it into a pit stop, and then as soon as it's over, we're just back on the pathway, right? I mean, but at the very least, there is a pit stop, right? And then we're just back doing exactly the same thing. So, I mean, I don't think that he's a solution necessarily. I think maybe he's putting the brakes on what's happening. And also, I have criticisms of him. I'm not an unqualified fan at all, but I honestly don't understand the level of hatred towards him at all, and it's always baffled me. Like, and I think it is because he's anti-establishment. He's outside of this, and the level of vitriol that was directed towards him, like, it's almost to the point where the media really should be an accessory to this. Can I say that?
Absolutely. Absolutely, they are. They've been really irresponsible and look, you can find clips of them saying, like, really damning things, like, somebody should do something. He has to be stopped. These kinds of, this rhetoric, like, this is where it's going to go. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that there is any excuse for what happened, full stop. I don't care. And a lot of people, like these Nancy Pelosi's and Chuck Schumer's, come out and they're like, we don't condone violence. Shut the fuck up. Yes, you did. Now that it's become a reality, you have to cover your ass. A lot of people have done that. They have basically push, and it's such a feminine thing. They push until somebody acts on it, and all of a sudden everyone's, oh, dude, I wasn't doing that. Hey, that was him. It's like, no, motherfucker, that was you. You did that. Nobody said, and this is like, I got into it with, remember Wick TV? Mm-hmm. I got into it with him online because Wick TV has TDS really bad, and he's like, we have to stop him. He can't be allowed to be president. And I'm like, then he gets shot, and he's like, oh, that wasn't cool. It's like, what the fuck, bro? Like, where were you when all this time, when everybody was saying that he was a Hitler and he was all this other shit, and you didn't say anything? You were just like, yeah, he kind of is. You know, he's going to bring fascism. But then when somebody tries to stop him because of your rhetoric, you're like, oh, no, I'm not promoting that. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you. You did promote this. Like, this is what I would respect. I would respect someone who said, look, here are the things that I think he does well. Here are the things I think he doesn't do so great. He's fine otherwise. Because that's generally the opinion of most people. Like, I talk to people here in Virginia all the time about him, and nobody says, oh my God, ride or die, he is my new Jesus. Nobody says that. Everybody's like, yeah, I like paying $2 a gallon for gas. I like being able to afford my groceries. I do think we should build a wall on the border. None of this is like crazy. No, it's not. You know what? It's harder to get into Canada than it is the U.S. legally. Like, it's harder. Like, I had a friend who had to spend like 10 years getting ready because he wanted to live in Toronto, and he did the work. It cost him a lot of money and a lot of time. So for some reason, it's hard to get into Mexico. But for some reason, we have to be the ones that are burdened with the, well, if you don't open up the border, you're racist. That's garbage. I'm sorry, but there's no excuse. No excuse. And every policy you can look at, there is a reasonable way to discuss it. And they're just not reasonable. Like, it always comes down to, like, it's do it our way or the highway. And every time, by the way, every time the left gets something, they treat it like it's normal, and then they go for the next thing. Women are ready to vote to destroy the country because we won't let them get abortions. That's what they're claiming, when all he did was say, do the way it's supposed to be. He's like, well, I put it to the states. And they're like, that's not good enough. Because why? Because women want everything now, free, forever.
But here's the thing, like, Trump put it to the states, or at least
that's what you're supposed to do.
That the Supreme Court that he helped elect put it to the states. But he also when the Republicans came to him and said, let's put a federal ban on abortion, he said, no, let's put it to the states. That's the way it should be. Okay?
Yeah.
So he's on that issue, he's acted out of principle. And this is what sort of aggravates me about the bulk of women. You get this hair up your ass, and you don't understand the importance of principles, the importance of states' rights, and in the face of federal overreach, right? They just don't see that. They just get a hair up their ass about abortion. Well, if you want abortion, move to a state that has it, or get involved in your local legislature. You know, make it a part of your local government that you want it there. But don't support more federal oversight over states' power. Like, we're dealing with that in Canada. It's horrible, right? We essentially, what's happening in Canada is the West, the resource producing West, are becoming subsidiary colonies of the East. And because they have
in Canada,
the federal power, and they have so much federal power, it's almost impossible to stand up to them. So they basically set the agenda. Like, they set the agenda, period. Like, the reason why we keep getting Trudeau is because Trudeau gets elected by the time we hit a Quebec, and then nobody else matters. Like, literally the only populations in Canada that matter for voting are in the East. That's it. And everybody else is controlled by them. Even though
Ottawa, Ontario, Quebec.
So we're basically just resource colonies, because we don't have that. We have that
and
incredible
Vancouver.
Federal control. And honestly, Canada is basically just a corporate state anyway. Like, we're not a real country. We're just a bunch of bullshit pretending to be a real country. And we're just basically run by corporations. But regardless, the point is that the principle of establishing local control, because here's the thing. If you want abortion rights going forward, it's better to put it to the state than keep it federally. Because if you get somebody who's, even more right of Trump, then you lose them completely.
Well, let's back up on the let's look at this abortion thing really quick. So, because I think this is interesting. So women are threatening to essentially vote to destroy the country because they're not getting their way on abortion. But what percentage of women are actually trying to get an abortion? Like, what, like, that is, like, because what I'm asking is, what I'm thinking about is that I don't think this is about a woman that's like, I want to get an abortion and Trump's not letting me. I don't think that's what this is. I think this is, maybe I'm wrong, you let me know, but I think this is women collectively saying that we will defy any man that dares to put any limits on anything we might want to do, even though we don't plan on doing it. Because, like, most women that are not, like, running around with a pregnant belly trying to figure out how to solve their problem, and they're worried about the election. Most women are either getting abortions, if they're going to get them at all, or they're just not getting pregnant. Because, as adults, you can do that. You can choose not to get pregnant, ladies. I know, it's crazy. So they're not voting based on a need that they have. They're voting on something else. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not based on them needing an abortion in the moment. It's a kind of we have to do this for the sisterhood.
Okay, I was muted, but I was going to say,
Oh, okay.
we've constructed this kind of, okay, this is going to be complicated. So bear with me. Just be prepared. Brace yourself. We're going to go deep.
Okay.
I think they've constructed this political position out of this kind of feminist rhetoric around oppression, that women are asserting themselves, that they are only allowed to be if they are able to basically at any point abort a man's child, like and that they can overcome that kind of physical colonialism of men. And I'm pretty sure there's rhetoric. I'm not taking this out of nowhere. There is rhetoric on this. So they've constructed this kind of political position around complete sovereignty, complete female sovereignty and independence from men. And that's not possible unless they have abortion. At least that's what they think it is. So they don't see it in terms of responsibility, like, oh, well, if you don't want to have an abortion, don't have sex, right? They want to have complete sovereignty. So they want to be able to do anything they want and have complete freedom from the consequences of that. And they have constructed this political position that is a moral good in and of itself. So they're defending what they think is a moral good. And again, this political position is constructed out of the feminist rhetoric, the feminist narrative about control, about oppression of women. They think that literally they're smashing patriarchy by standing up for abortion rights. And they have been sold this idea, because they think that men oppress women, that is the most critical thing for our society to do. So we've essentially constructed a political talking point that now controls politics out of this, out of feminist rhetoric. And you can sort of see that, like I was talking about the Church of Women worsting like 10 years ago, no, 8 years ago. And it's that now the central topic in politics for women, who are the majority voter base, is based around their freedom, alleged freedom as a woman, which is freedom from consequences. So they think, and it's not just that they're doing this because they feel like it's almost like a holy calling, that they destroy men and their influence or their ability to threaten women's freedom. And it's like it's a very interesting mentality, and it's one that's going to continue to dominate politics. But it's more than just, oh, they want freedom. It's almost like it's become its own moral good to be free from consequence and responsibility. And that is how you attain a truly moral society in their mind. I know that sounds absolutely absurd, but it's because that's what feminist rhetoric has created politically. So that's why they do it.
Yeah.
And they'll destroy the country to get that, because the country is this fallen state of patriarchy, smashing patriarchy. I mean, literally, they're saying what they're doing.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that was mostly what I wanted to say. I mean, it's, you know, it's a dark day, but I mean, one thing that I guess helps is the fact that they don't value male life much to begin with, so it's not like a hard leap to the next thing, because imagine if they would have shot at that some female politician, you know, and almost killed her. I would have been just as upset, because I don't think this is the way that you should be doing things in a first world country.
Well,
So
they just shouted cunt, see you next Tuesday.
yeah, or just called her a
we
cunt.
would consider that more
It would be
politically violent than this.
absolutely.
Let's be honest. That's the way we think. And unfortunately, that's going to have influence on politics as well. An unfortunate influence that we basically coddle and infantilize female politicians more than male. Like, I mean, if Trump had acted with fear instead of, you know, I guess boldness, he probably would have been deeply criticized. And yet a female politician, someone who just runs up out of the crowd and says, cunt, and if she just like,
what if Cat Turd had tweeted at her?
Yeah, what if Cat Turd had tweeted, I can't go on. Oh, we need to smash the country in order to stop Cat Turd. You know, like, this is allowed.
Y'all have to get your priorities together, dude.
Like, literally, Trump gets shot at and he's like, yeah, I'm still alive, still kicking. And again, if somebody had yelled cunt at Hillary Clinton or any female politician during a rally, and she just fainted dead away, no one would be like, wow, what an incredible coward. Why would we want that as a leader? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this level of expected toughness, it's so different that it's insane. And nobody wants to address that. Nobody wants to address the fact of what we will tolerate female politicians being victims of. Like, at this point, if a female politician complains about anything like Twitter harassment, being called names at political rallies, sternly worded letters to the editor, if they complain about anything like that, and they say, well, this is misogyn this is misogynist abuse. Bullshit. That's just you being weak. Because this is what male politicians face. I mean, this is what all politicians face, but in particular male politicians. And the reason why male politicians uniquely face violence is because all men uniquely face violence. Like, I was looking at, I've been responding to a tweet from, I think it was like a woman's refuge in the UK, and they were talking about how women are killed every 5 days or something. And I've been just having this conversation, and it's like, people don't realize that the majority of murder victims are men. When criminals choose a target, they choose men. And there was a study done, or there was like a investigation, I should say, done by feminist critics. It used to be a great blog back in the day. And they looked at who gets targeted when the aggressor can choose their target. So in war-torn countries, so go back to the Middle East. In the Middle East, if a aggressor can choose their target, the more likely it is to be a man. So, for example, violence that is terroristic violence, like a bomb set in a marketplace, 50-50 female and male victims, right? If you can actually target the violence, it starts to become more and more male. So if snipers, 90% of their targets will be male, right? When you get to kidnapping, 95% is male. And then when you get to kidnapping, torture, violence, murder, it's almost 100% male. Because at each stage, the aggressor has more control over whether or not they're targeting a man or a woman. And at each stage, they prefer to target a man. So it's not just that Trump got shot at. It's that most likely Trump got shot at, and part of the reason why was because he's a man. Not just Trump.
Yeah, absolutely.
That he's a man. That we feel it is legitimate political speech to shoot male politicians. In a way that we wouldn't even consider calling a female politician a cunt legitimate political speech. We would consider that a campaign of misogynistic terror that is perpetuated against women. So, I mean, think about that, and think about how that influences politics and what women are allowed to get away with, and what standards we don't hold them to when they become politicians. And then it's like, and nobody's going to talk about that. Nobody's going to talk about the fact that Trump was likely targeted not just because he was right, not just because he was anti-establishment, not because people think he's the second coming of Hitler, but also because he's a man, and men are seen as expendable.
Well, I think that's the first. That's like the foot in the door, because once you see that, once you're dealing with a man, all the other stuff is a lot easier. Because I think it's harder to prove that a woman is Hitler, for example. But yeah, if it's a man, that's like, a bonus to your starting. Exactly.
It's easier to see a man solely as a puppet of his ideology, a reflection, solely comprised of his ideological position, right? So you're not killing a human, you're killing an ideology, right? We strip men of their humanity. It's why they get drawn to these ideologies, necessarily extremist ideologies, or just ideologies, period, or even drawn to just sacrificing themselves for credit in a job. But it's also why we identify them with their ideology or with their function, and we think killing them isn't the same as killing a real person. And it's why criminals more likely to target them. People in war zones are more likely to target them. And this is a conversation that nobody's having except us.
Yep. So I got some monetized content, some super chats and stuff.
Oh,
I want to
okay.
read through them really
That's
quick.
an interesting way to put it.
We got super chows, we got super chows, we got super chats, and I got the Rumble to show again, guys. I'm sorry for raising my voice there. I got the Rumble working, so I can see your Rumble rant, so you don't have to tell me, at least not for now. But let's start with the super chows because we always give the priorities to the super chow. So Richard Bier gives us $5 today and says, imagine the political fallout if someone happened to sprinkle Hillary Clinton with holy water, or would the effect be the same as what happened when Dorothy extinguished the Wicked Witch with the water I'm melting? Thank you for that, Richard. I can't speak to the mythology of the etymology of Hillary Clinton. I don't know what her weaknesses are, whether it's garlic or holy water or silver, but
or if she has like a portrait of herself slowly
like aging and turning, like Dorian Gray that you have to show her. But thank you for that, Richard. And then we got one from Anonymous. It looks like support, but there's no comment. Do you see it?
Let me see what's going on there. I think we got $50 in terms of support. I can check. I'll double check to make sure you didn't send a message there.
All right.
I can see his name, but I don't think necessarily we want to. And he also pledged $15 per month as well, so he became a subscriber. So
thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for joining us, Anonymous. You know who you are. We won't say. Very much appreciated. And I'm looking at your option.
Domo arigato, Anon.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't see any actual statements, so I don't think he did send a message. So, but thank you very much. $50 is great, and also the ongoing support is great as well. So, thank you, Anonymous.
All right, and then lastly, we got $10 from Great Indoors, and he says, I wonder if Jordan Owen is disappointed. I know he wanted everything done to stop Trump from being elected again, including destroying the entire democratic system in the U.S. by rigging the election, but of course, no assassinations. That would be a step too far. We don't want to do that.
What?
That would go too far, of course. Still, I bet he is mostly troubled by the fact that this event probably has boosted the popularity of Trump even more, and that is what these people are most concerned of, not the complete erosion of society. Thank you, Great Indoors.
Like, it's just... I don't understand this level. Can somebody just explain...
Allison, it's not logical. It's not. They think that if he gets into power, the world's going to end. Like, it won't just be like another 4 years of, some like managed decline or whatever you want to call it. Maybe even improvements. Who knows? I mean, like, when he was in office for 4 years, there were no new wars. He pulled some people out of war-torn countries. He wanted to get out of various programs that we had no business in. He's like trying to get out of NATO, which I think is a good idea. I think NATO is shit. I think the United Nations is shit. I think that the whole climate thing is shit. The WHO is shit. The World Economic Forum is shit. We shouldn't be involved with any of it. And why are we paying for everybody else's mistakes? Those are all very fair things. The United States was pretty isolationist right up until the First World War. We got dragged into some shit. So, and even World War II, we didn't want anything to do with until we got bombed, or, the attack on Pearl Harbor. So, I think Jordan Owen just has TDS. Tachyon Blue has TDS. Wick TV has TDS. Destiny has, like, terminal TDS. And they're not rational. Like, for most of my life, for as long as I've been voting, I never thought a presidential election was the end of the world. Never. I went through Carter, Reagan, Bush Sr., Clinton, Bush Jr., Obama, now this, right? I mean, I think that things are worse now than they have been. But even if Biden won, I think I'd survive the next 4 years. I'm not, like, gonna flip out. I just hope he doesn't, because I think things are pretty bad. So, I don't get it. I think that these people are they're probably all new to this stuff, because, like, we've had, like, the fear-mongering on Reagan and George W. Bush. We made it. It's okay. It's going to be fine. That's what I say. If Trump wins, it's going to be fine. No one's going to die. Nothing bad's gonna happen. There's not gonna be a Handmaid's Tale, like Natty keeps saying. It's not happening. I'm not buying the fear mongering. I'm disgusted by it. Frankly, I'm disgusted by it. If anything, the worst thing that I think Project 2025 does, I don't even think it's bad, is that essentially they're going to be slashing all kinds of government stuff. You know, kind of like Javier Milei did in Argentina. If we did that here, yeah, we'd be hurting, but we're in so much debt. It's the only way. And so what is it? People are complaining because women can't get free shit anymore. Well, I guess you're just gonna have to save money. I guess you're gonna have to change your standard of living. You know, I mean, I don't think that's gonna happen anyway. Because even Trump said he didn't know what Project 2025 was, and he was like, yeah, I'm not. I looked into it. I'm not really a fan. I got my own thing, and that was it. And you know, again, it's like you said, he's basically like Bill Clinton. Like, I don't see the big deal, but of course, these people they're just completely irrational. Like, they're just out to lunch, man. Completely out to lunch.
Yeah, somebody in the chat just said wearing sunglasses indoors, opinion disregarded. So I'll explain again to those people who might be new. I get migraines. In order to actually see my face, I have to have lights on me, and that is actually very uncomfortable. So because I don't want to go home with a massive headache, you're going to just have to live with me wearing sunglasses. Sorry, guys.
It's just that one person. Who cares?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, if you can't listen to an opinion, no matter how good it might be, no matter how informative it might be, just because somebody's wearing sunglasses, that sounds like a you problem, in my opinion. But Xerax says, for $5 super chat, thank you, Xerax. Brian sounding like Chris Cuomo a bit, pretty sus. Who says that riots have to be peaceful? And let me see. There was a Rumble rant as well. I think it disappeared. No, it's right up here. NovaFan21 gives us $1 and says, next time a feminist claims women are being murdered by men, call her a racist and tell her she needs more cultural enrichment. That's usually the kind of men they're talking about, but they don't want to say it. You know, like there was a GB News in the UK. I'm sorry for the digression, but there was a GB News thing. I think it was GB News or one of these BBC type channels, and there was an anchor woman on there, and she was talking about how unsafe she feels on the streets, and she's trying to blame it on just men, but she's not talking about just men. She's talking specifically about these migrant men that have come in, you know, from like Africa and the Middle East. But because you see, this is the conflict that these women in these first world countries, they're more concerned with being called racist than with being called misandrist. So they'll just be misandrist, and it lets them make the complaints they really want to make about men of color without actually having to face the consequences of that, because look, I'm just talking about men. You know, Mark Lamont Hill did the same thing. He said, I think all men are sexist. Does that mean I hate men? Of course, no, because we don't have a rule for that. So you can be sexist to men all you want. Anyway, you're muted, Alice.
Yes, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on with the fundraiser. Okay, so it is live at feedthebadger.com/support if you guys want to help out. We did get a support by someone, but I think that they canceled it for whatever reason. So I don't have a thank you to give there. We for a bit I'm going to be taking like people can put funds through and get a
Poster?
A poster, yes. We're working on a poster. And I'll give you guys more details. Like I might send out like an actual video that explains the whole thing, because it's a little bit complicated. It's new. I know everybody hates new things. So yeah, like that's just trying to figure out what the heck's going on here. Okay. It's almost like the fundraiser is having a glitch of some kind. And we'll see. We'll figure it out. Okay. Anyway, so if you want to help us out, feedthebadger.com/support. If you want to send us a message, I think is there anything more that you wanted to say about this situation? Because I know that you were fairly passionate about it.
Well, mostly like I just didn't want to get into. I think that our audience knows that, because I know that there are some like people suffering from TDS in our chat sometimes. I'm just, I think you guys know that I don't care what you think about the man. It's just like what I said about Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein and other people. Okay. Assassination, I don't know if you know this, but it's wrong. So I don't know if I have to tell you that, but it's not really the way forward. So
No.
I'm just going to say that it's shit. It should never have happened. It's not surprising. We know why. And that's it. So.
All right. Well, you know, I just wanted to get these ideas out because I think that we're one of the few places that actually talks about these kinds of situations from the way that we do. I don't know if anybody is considering that Trump wasn't just targeted because he's right. You know, he's an anti-establishment because of TDS. He was targeted because he's a man too. Let's face it. We think that men are disposable in service of political speech. This is something that's very common.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be talking about this on Tuesday as well, because there's some other things I just remembered something. Trump's security detail, the people who are supposed to keep him alive, number one, they were using DEI practices. That's why there were women there. And number two, he wasn't getting, like, he was asking for a certain amount of protection. He wasn't getting it. He was denied this by the director, who was also a woman. And not saying that that's why, but just putting it out there. It might be a detail that's worthy of some note, considering the rhetoric around, again, how much Trump hates women. So I don't think that's helpful. And I think, though, the other thing was they were trying to take away his Secret Service protections for a while. He still managed to keep some. So imagine if they, and by they I mean the Democrat Party, if they managed to take away his Secret Service protections, he probably would be gone today. If he was still even going out and going to rallies. So, and also, because it's crazy, that night after he got shot, he went to a UFC game. Are they games? A UFC fight. He went to a fight. That same night. Yeah, they're fights. I don't I don't know why I said game. I mean, they're kind of like games because there are winners and losers, but yeah. So there you go. That was basically the other stuff.
Stay tuned to that for Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go to my channel that is Gender Attic on YouTube. I think if we can, we might keep this up on Twitter, so you might still be seeing it through Twitter.
I'll leave it up on Twitter, and then I'll close it off everywhere else, and then we'll just start it back up on.
And I will make the show because I forgot to do that. Sorry. But what we're going to be talking about is essentially someone is making a defense of anti-war crimes. That is the woman who took her dragon to a coronation event and started killing civilians as a political statement. They're basically saying that the actress who did that scene said she was channeling Hillary Clinton. Oh boy.
Yeah.
So I think we can go through that, have a little fun with that, do something a little bit lighter, and you can join us at Gender Attic. That is Gender Erratic, so 2 R's, 1 T. Yes, not 2 T's, not attic, erratic. All right, or Typhon Blue. You can also find me at Typhon Blue. And so hope to see you there. And,
actually, I think there's a link to your channel in the description.
Oh yeah, they're probably
like at the bottom. There's a list of go to the low bar. You can find it there.
You can join us there. All right. So once again, feedthebadger.com/justthetip to send us a message at any time after the show, and we will respond to it the very next reasonable opportunity. And feedthebadger.com/support to continue to support this content because it's unique and it's a voice that needs to be heard because people are having trouble with some of the concepts that we talk about. So once again, thank you for joining, and back to you, Brian.
All right. Well, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today, and please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame, and we'll talk to you all in the next one. Stay safe, everybody.
Are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.